All right, man, peace. So the question that was undoubtedly at the forefront of all of the viewers' minds who happened to watch the Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov super mega UFC match on Saturday night had to be, what exactly was it that was said to Khabib that set him off in such a manner that made him not only leap over the fence, but attack one of Conor McGregor's coaches, I believe his name is Dillon Danis, with so much vitriol? Well, the question was finally answered. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Welcome to TV Sports, Ebony with Michael J. Babcock.
What's up, Evan?
We now know what Conor McGregor's teammate said to Khabib Nurmagomedov that set him off after UFC 229. You saw the video. Khabib choked out Conor, made him tap, and then leaped out of the cage and attacked Dillon Danis, who's Conor McGregor's teammate. They train together. They have for a very long time. And he jumped out of the cage with a flying knee.
I'm going to say it again. Had the referee not stopped Khabib, he was ready to break Conor McGregor's neck. You can see it just by the pressure that he's putting on that man's neck right there. And if you pay attention when you watch the footage, Conor McGregor had to tap multiple times. The referee actually had to force Khabib to let that man go.
After he threw his mouthpiece at him and just went crazy on the guy outside the ring while Conor sat there.
It's the answer to the question that everybody wanted to know: what set off the normally mild-mannered Khabib and made him lose his mind after the fight.
So Harvey actually spoke with somebody who was sitting about 6 feet from the octagon right next to Dillon Danis. Harvey, what did that guy tell you Dillon said?
He called him a blanking Muslim rat.
Now, didn't I tell you guys that whatever it was that was being told or said to Khabib while he was engaging in a UFC match against Conor McGregor had to be something along the same lines or in the same tenor with which Conor McGregor had been verbally and psychologically attempting to assault Khabib over the course of building up their fight? It had to be that. There was no doubt in my mind about that. So, Khabib, he was a powder keg, and he finally exploded. As I stated in the last video, I would not have advised him to do that. But I understand, because every person has their limitations. But once again, I would not have advised that. But it is what it is. When you keep pushing people, when you keep trolling them, you have to expect an explosion in some way, shape, or form eventually. There will be an explosion if you continue to try to troll people or harass them or push them beyond their point of tolerance. It is what it is.
And realize that Dillon has been talking crap on Khabib for weeks now, along with Conor. And, you know, look, I got to tell you something. I get it that Khabib had to stay cool when he was being insulted. His father was being insulted. His family was being insulted. His country was being insulted. His God was being insulted.
Let me say this once again. The main reason, in my view, why Khabib jumped out of the ring was because he wanted to kill Conor McGregor, but he was unable to do so. He was probably saying to himself, if the referee could wait 5 more seconds, I could snap this man's neck. It would not surprise me if thoughts like that were going on in his mind. And he was not allowed to kill Conor, so he said, I'm going to get somebody. And that's why that man jumped out of the octagon. And he's very fortunate that security was able to get in between him and that person, Dillon Danis, because I have little doubt that had Khabib been able to get his hands on Dillon Danis in the same way that he got his hands on Conor McGregor, he would have tried to kill Dillon Danis. I have little doubt about that in my mind. He was not heading outside of that octagon just to fight. That man was trying to catch a body, straight up.
His religion was being insulted, and he had to just stand there to listen to Conor spewing that hatred and racism. And so was Conor's team, and so was Dillon.
Well, I would not say that Conor McGregor was spewing quote-unquote racism. Now, if you want to say that Conor McGregor was verbally assaulting his nation of people, where he's from and his region, then that's more valid. But his race, I would not agree with that, because they both happen to be of the same so-called race.
So he's sitting there and just steaming, I'm sure, doesn't lose his cool, and then in the ring, you blanking Muslim rat set him off.
So we talked to Dana White about what possible punishment Khabib's going to get. Remember, Khabib's purse in this fight was $2 million. It's a guaranteed $2 million, but the Nevada State Athletic Commission has put a hold on that. They're not going to pay that out to Khabib while they investigate this incident. And we talked to Dana White and asked, how much are they going to fine him of that money? And what Dana said shocked me. Watch this.
What I think of, listen, they took his whole purse right now, and they're talking about keeping his purse. I do not think that should happen. You should not be able to keep his whole purse. I mean,
Dana White, stop acting like you care if the Nevada State Athletic Commission keeps that man's whole purse. You already know how they get down because they put you through a very similar rigmarole when Conor McGregor got into that issue throwing water bottles at Nate Diaz in his camp. So you already know that the Nevada State Athletic Commission, they do not play unless they get their palms greased. So you're going to have to grease their palms in order to ensure that Khabib gets his money. That's how that goes. Nevada is a dirty state through and through, allegedly. Allegedly. But they're dirty through and through, and money talks. That's why they allowed Canelo to fight. That's why they eventually allowed that issue between Conor and Nate to basically be water under the bridge. And that's why they're going to allow this issue with Khabib to be water under the bridge, but you are going to have to grease their palms. You know how it works, Dana White. Don't act like you don't.
I mean, listen, the guy made a mistake. He's composed himself his entire career. He composed himself throughout the entire press conference, weigh-ins, everything else.
That tells you that he was keeping it all inside for the right moment. That's what that should tell you. Once again, he was hoping to have the opportunity to kill Conor McGregor. He was unable to do that. So there was still a lot of excessive adrenaline pumping through his system that he had to let out. That testosterone was starting to spill over. And Dana White, you're partially to blame because you allowed the shit talking to spill out of control. And in the rematch and in the build-up for the rematch, you're going to have to make sure that you set restrictions and parameters in regards to what exactly you allow to get said between these fighters. But I suspect that you will not allow that. I suspect that you're going to allow the hate to spill over again. Because Conor McGregor is on record as stating on his Instagram that he feels like he lost the match, but he won the battle and the war still continues. Now, what does that mean? For him to say that he lost the match, but he won the battle, he's saying the battle for Khabib's mind. So he's still trying to wage more battles in that war to try to break Khabib down mentally. That's how he's hoping to be successful in the rematch. How else is he going to be successful other than to ratchet up the trash talk even further? So Dana White, the onus is going to be on you to set the restrictions and to set the parameters to make sure that both of these guys confine their comments to actual fighting and not about so-called religious beliefs or country, nationality, government, etc. Or hell, in the case of Conor, even terrorism. Conor basically accused Khabib of being associated with terrorists. And once again, as I stated in the previous video, Conor better watch himself because those guys, they do not play. They do not joke around. Conor, to me, comes off as someone who might have grown up a bit hard scrabble, but he tries to act like he was some type of gun-toter growing up. I think that he was just a poor Irish kid who listened to too much hip-hop growing up. And you can see it in him. That's why I call a lot of his conduct very Tupacian. He reminds me a lot of Tupac, and I think that his end is going to come very similar to a Tupac.
But they obviously have to make a statement. I think they should take $250,000 from him.
But he keeps his title.
Well, Dana White, I have news for you. The Nevada State Athletic Commission, they do not take instructions from you. So when you say that you think that they should take $250,000 from him, that's basically how much you're going to have to pay them to do that, to offset that.
Oh, he absolutely keeps his title. And he's going to get suspended, so maybe you give him a 4 to 6 month suspension.
You know why he might not even get 6 months? Because no one was injured in the melee afterward. No arrests were made afterward.
I know.
It's going to be fine. So,
yeah, but what does that even mean? The Nevada State Athletic Commission is going to give him a 6-month suspension? Or are you going to give him the 6-month suspension, Dana White? Because, as we all know, the UFC fights all over the world. So the Nevada State Athletic Commission, hypothetically speaking, can give him a 6-month suspension, and it won't matter if the rematch is fought in Dublin, Ireland, or in Moscow, Russia, or someplace like that. So I believe that Dana White is saying that he's going to give Khabib a 6-month suspension, and I think that it's going to be good for all parties involved. I think that it'll be good to build up the rematch. It'll be good for Khabib. It'll give him time to cool his head and also build up his fan base even more. It'll also give Conor a bit of a timeout. Maybe give him a reason or an excuse to fight someone else other than Khabib, to maybe grease his axles a little bit better. so that he looks a little smoother in the rematch. Because once again, Conor at his best was going to lose to Khabib, but he looked extremely rusty. He looked very slow, even slower than normal, because he's not particularly fast. But he looked even slower than normal against Khabib. Khabib looked way faster than him.
We're talking about the worst case scenario, where in reality he might not get a suspension at all.
Well, if he doesn't, then that's right.
He might not get a fine at all either.
It sounds to me like Dana says he's going to get a fine and going to get a suspension. But
I think that Dana's talking about himself. He might be talking about the Nevada State Athletic Commission, but I mean, once again, if he is, does that really matter? The UFC fights all over the world. So I don't think that they're particularly worried about that. I think that Dana at this point is just trying to get Khabib his money. And the main reason he's trying to get Khabib his money is because he knows that if for no other reason than for show, a show of force, to act as if he cares about order, he's going to have to suspend Khabib for 6 months, maybe even longer than that. Who knows?
You know what? If you're right and that's what happened, that would be right. I mean, they should just say, look, he shouldn't have done it. We're going to fine him $100,000 and leave it at that. That's about right to me.
So what's up with Conor McGregor? His career seems to be in a low point right now. He lost to Khabib.
I disagree. I think that he's actually a person who's in the midst of a transformation. That's why I stated that it's very obvious to me that Conor McGregor is in a transformative period in his life. He just has not accepted anymore that he should no longer be competing in the UFC. It's time for him to move onward and upward. Why would you want to get in the ring with a person who wants to physically kill you when you have a whiskey brand that could possibly earn you 9 figures over the course of the next year? It's highly possible with the way that that Proper 12 whiskey is moving off the shelves. Why get into the ring with Khabib again? To prove what? That you're a bigger macho man than him? That you're a bigger alpha male than him? I mean, it's up to you, but at the end of the day, I just don't see any way that Conor McGregor is going to beat that guy. I think that Khabib is pretty much better than him in every phase of fighting, and he showed it in their first fight.
He lost to Nate Diaz a couple fights ago.
Yeah, but
he lost to Floyd Mayweather.
And let me say this about the Floyd Mayweather fight that Conor McGregor had as well. And I've stated this about Mayweather in the past. People truly underestimate the effect that fighting Mayweather has on fighters. Because Mayweather's not known for being a one-punch knockout artist. But the way in which Mayweather pinpoints his shots, and he hits hard enough over the course of 12 rounds, that can be extremely debilitating to a fighter's body. And it's very common for fighters that Mayweather has stepped in the ring with to never be the same again after they fight him. Going all the way back, to be quite honest with you, to Gennaro Chiquinito Hernandez. You look at most of the fighters that Floyd Mayweather has faced, they were not the same after they fought him. Angel Manfredi, Diego Corrales, Zab Judah, Arturo Gatti, Carlos Baldemir, Oscar De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton. None of those fighters were ever the same after they fought Mayweather. A lot of them still continued to fight, but they never had that pep in their step like they had before they fought him. Because fighting Mayweather is like, the difference between a Mayweather and another fighter is that another fighter might have a one-punch knockout punch. They might hit you over the head with a baseball bat and knock you clean out. But fighting Mayweather is like fighting someone who keeps hitting you in the back of the head with a hammer for 12 rounds. You might be able to survive it. You might stay awake, but that night you're going to go to sleep and not understand that you have a brain hemorrhage and you're never going to be the same again. Mayweather does that to his opponents, and you could tell when he fought McGregor at the end of that fight. I believe Mayweather was able to stop him after 10 rounds. That Conor was fucked up inside of his head, inside of his skull. He was not right upstairs, and you could tell that because he was looking forward to that whiskey bottle, and he was trying to drink away that pain because Mayweather put him through some serious pain. That was a serious ass whooping that Floyd Mayweather gave him, starting from round 4, with hard shots. Once again, Mayweather is a very dangerous fighter to fight because he's not a one-punch knockout guy, but he does hit harder than he gets credit for. His shots are pinpoint, and they're always on perfect time. And it's very difficult to see his shots. So once again, it's like getting hit in the back of the head with a hammer in a dark room, and you don't know who the hell's doing it.
We go from here with Conor McGregor. Here's the bottom line. Conor signed a 6-fight deal with the UFC, so even though he's selling whiskey, he's still got to get back in the octagon. Problem is, who does he face now?
I don't know.
We asked Dana White that exact question. This is what Dana White said. What do you see next for Conor? He's got so many options. The rematch with Khabib, the trilogy with Nate Diaz, all these other fights. Where do you want to see him fight next?
Yeah, I don't know. We have to see how this stuff plays out with Khabib and what's next. Tony Ferguson looked amazing that night. That fight was incredible. So we'll see what happens.
I like that. He's throwing Tony Ferguson's name into the mix.
It's got to be Tony Ferguson and Khabib.
Well, I think that Tony Ferguson is going to get a fight with one of those two fighters, depending on how long Khabib gets suspended for.
Khabib, it's got to be the two of them.
If Khabib gets hit with a suspension and he can't fight for 6 months, maybe you throw Conor and Tony Ferguson there, and then the
I agree.
winner.
It's weird to
gets
me.
Khabib.
No, Tony Ferguson was unbelievable, and it should be Khabib and Tony Ferguson. I mean, it just should.
I want to point out that Tony Ferguson beat Anthony.
Right, but does Tony Ferguson want to wait on Khabib if Khabib has a 6 or an 8-month suspension?
Beat Anthony Pettis.
Besides that, you're really trying to build up Conor McGregor's profile and his confidence, because right now he's coming off of a couple of consecutive ass whoopings. Let's be for real. Conor McGregor's coming off of a couple of consecutive ass whoopings when you look at McGregor and Khabib. So do you just want to send Conor right back in there again with Khabib coming off of a 6 or an 8-month layoff? I'm not quite sure about that. Of course, McGregor's going to want to agree to that because he has to keep up his alpha male persona. But if we're just talking using some level of logic and reason, Conor McGregor, he really needs a tune-up. But I don't think that he's going to accept it.
He had
Well, he broke his hand.
Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis broke his hand.
Yeah.
But Tony Ferguson, what's so impressive is that Tony Ferguson injured his knee, needed surgery. It was a devastating injury that can keep an NFL football player out for around a year. And Tony Ferguson was back in the octagon after, 6 months, Babcock?
6 months. You were recovered in 5 months.
It looked phenomenal.
Have you ever seen that much blood?
No, and I loved it.
It was amazing. And then I thought Ferguson was the one that was bleeding. I had no idea.
I did too. Tony Ferguson looked amazing.
And he was just, he's standing there drenched in blood and smiling.
Yeah,
it was just unbelievable.
After we were called out Conor McNuggets, he says he wants a piece.
It was amazing.
But anyway, we'll see what happens with the Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov situation. That narrative is not going to go away anytime soon. But I just wanted to make this video to provide some clarity in regards to what instigated Khabib to start that brawl. Once again, I'm not going to make any excuses for Khabib's behavior. I'm not going to say that I would have advised him to do that, but I do understand why he did it. It's just very unfortunate that Dana White did not mind the situation better. But we'll see how things go in the rematch. So peace.